Hey guys, tonight we slip through the velvet curtains of a Scottish castle, where the air hums with the scent of heather and the faint rustle of parchment. You stand in the court of Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots, her auburn hair catching the torchlight, her laughter hiding a heart heavy with secrets. A wax-sealed letter, tucked beneath her sleeve, pulses with danger, words that could crown or kill her. You'd last 5 minutes in this den of intrigue before tripping over a coded plot. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Whisper in the comments where you're drifting off from and the hour on your clock. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's drift into tonight's shadowy tale together. You glide through the halls of Holyrood Palace, Edinburgh, in 1561. The stone walls, draped with tapestries of unicorns and thistles, glow under flickering sconces. Mary Stuart, barely 19, has returned from France to claim her Scottish throne. The air carries the crisp bite of autumn and the faint strum of a lute from a distant chamber. You pause at a carved oak door, its iron hinges creaking as a lady-in-waiting in russet velvet slips past, her eyes darting. The court buzzes with whispers, some of loyalty, others of betrayal. Mary, a Catholic queen in a Protestant land, treads a delicate path, her charm a shield against the storm brewing beyond these walls. You step into the great hall, where Mary presides, her saffron gown shimmering like a flame. Her smile is radiant, but her fingers toy with a silver rosary, a hint of the faith that divides her court. Nobles in indigo doublets and fur-trimmed cloaks bow low, their words honeyed but their eyes sharp. You'd think they'd tire of scheming. Plotting must be their morning exercise. Mary's beauty and wit are legendary, but so is her vulnerability. Historical records note her return from France sparked tension. Her claim to England's throne, through her Tudor blood, threatens Queen Elizabeth I. The air feels charged, like the moment before a Highland storm, and you sense the weight of a letter, a secret missive, that could shift her fate. You drift closer, catching the scent of lavender from Mary's gown, mingled with the wax of a nearby candle. A courtier, Lord Darnley, lounges nearby, his golden doublet catching the light. He's Mary's future husband, but his roving eyes and smug grin hint at trouble. The court whispers of his ambition, his love of wine, and his reckless charm. A quirky noble oddity stands out. Darnley once gifted Mary a ruby-encrusted lute, only to pawn a similar one to fund his gambling. You chuckle softly. Imagine a prince pawning jewels to chase dice. Yet, his presence stirs unease, and you wonder if he's an ally or a pawn in a larger game. The hall's tapestries seem to watch, their woven figures hiding secrets as old as the stones. You slip through a side door to a candlelit study, where a scribe in teal robes seals a letter with crimson wax. The parchment, historians say, is part of the infamous casket letters, a series of missives that later damned Mary. Were they her words, or forgeries crafted by her enemies? Scholars still debate this enigma. Some argue the letters prove Mary plotted murder. Others claim they were Elizabeth's weapon to crush a rival. You feel the parchment's weight, its ink holding a queen's destiny. The scribe's hands tremble, and you wonder, is he loyal, or does he serve another? The lavender scent fades, replaced by the sharp tang of sealing wax, as if signaling a plot taking shape. You wander to a window overlooking Edinburgh's craggy hills, where mist curls like a dragon's breath. The city hums with unrest. Protestant lords, led by John Knox, rail against Mary's Catholic ways. You recall the historical nugget. Mary's marriage to Darnley in 1565 deepened the rift, as his arrogance alienated allies. The court's loyalty frays like the tapestries, and you sense the letter's shadow growing. A lady-in-waiting passes, her saffron skirts rustling, whispering of a French envoy bearing news. Is it support for Mary, or a trap? The lute's notes slow, weaving a lullaby-like spell, but the air carries a chill, as if the castle itself holds its breath. As you glide back to the hall, Mary rises, her rosary glinting. She speaks of peace, but her eyes are wary, fixed on Darnley's careless grin. You notice a guard, his hand on a dirk, watching from the shadows. The court is a gilded cage, and every smile hides a dagger. You'd think these nobles would tire of deception, but it's practically their art form. The candlelight flickers, casting shadows that dance like specters of betrayal. The letter, still hidden, feels like a ticking clock, its secrets poised to unravel a queen's dreams. The lute's melody fades, pulling you deeper into the night's embrace, where treachery waits. You drift through the torchlit corridors of Holyrood Palace, the air heavy with the scent of beeswax and the faint rustle of velvet. It's 1565 now, and Mary Stuart's court pulses with a dangerous energy, like a harp string stretched to breaking. The stone walls, draped with tapestries of stags and thistles, seem to whisper secrets as you glide toward a grand banquet hall. Candlelight spills across a scene of opulence, but beneath the clink of silver goblets, a silken mask conceals a traitor's intent. You pause at the threshold, heart quickening, as the queen's laughter mingles with the strum of a lute, masking the deadly whispers that could unravel her throne. The hall is a tapestry of splendor, its oak tables laden with roasted venison, spiced pears, and wine in etched silver cups. Mary sits at the high table, her saffron gown glowing like a sunset, her auburn hair crowned with a pearl net. Lord Darnley, her new husband, lounges beside her, his golden doublet unbuttoned, his grin slurred by wine. You'd think a royal banquet would be all charm, but these nobles plot like it's their day job. The court buzzes with masked revelers, their faces hidden behind silk and feathers, a tradition Mary brought from France. A quirky noble oddity catches your ear. Darnley once wore a peacock-feathered mask to a mask, only to trip over his own cape in a drunken stumble. You chuckle softly. Imagine a prince undone by his own plumage. You slip closer, catching the scent of lavender from Mary's gown, now tinged with the sharp tang of spilled wine. Darnley's hand lingers on a lady-in-waiting's wrist, his eyes roving despite Mary's presence. The court whispers of his debauchery, taverns, dice, and dalliances that shame the crown. Historical records note his marriage to Mary was a political gamble, meant to strengthen her claim to England's throne, but his reckless behavior fuels discord. You notice a noble in an indigo doublet, Lord Bothwell, watching from a corner, his eyes sharp as a dirk. Is he an ally or a schemer? The air feels thick, like the moment before a storm breaks over the Highlands. You glide through the crowd, past dancers swirling in russet and teal velvets, their masks glinting in the candlelight. A minstrel's lute weaves a hypnotic melody, but you overhear a hushed exchange behind a tapestry. Two courtiers, their voices low, speak of a letter, a coded missive Mary sent to her Catholic allies in France. The casket letters, again, those damning parchments that historians still debate. Were they love letters to Bothwell, plotting murder, or forgeries by Elizabeth's spies? The scholarly riddle lingers. Did Mary write them in passion, or were they crafted to trap her? You feel the weight of that letter, its wax seal a ticking bomb in this gilded hall. You wander to a window, where Edinburgh's craggy skyline looms under a crescent moon. The city hums with unrest. Protestant lords, led by John Knox, preach against Mary's Catholic ways, while her marriage to Darnley sows division. A historical nugget surfaces. Darnley's jealousy led to the murder of Mary's secretary, David Rizzio, in 1566, right in this palace. The court's masks hide more than faces. They conceal motives as sharp as the daggers tucked in their sleeves. You'd think these nobles would tire of betrayal, but it's practically their currency. The lute's notes slow, and you sense the banquet's cheer is a fragile veneer, ready to crack. You slip back to the hall, where Mary rises, her pearl net catching the light. She calls for a dance, her smile radiant but strained, as if she feels the eyes upon her. Bothwell steps forward, offering his hand, his indigo doublet stark against the revelry. The crowd parts, and you notice a lady-in-waiting in teal, her mask slipping to reveal a flicker of fear. Does she know of the letter, or something worse? The scent of lavender grows cloying, mingling with the wax of dripping candles, as if masking a darker truth. You recall the whispers of Rizzio's fate, a loyal servant stabbed in Mary's presence, his blood staining the floor. Was it Darnley's doing, or a deeper plot? The banquet hall glows, but the shadows lengthen, curling like smoke. You spot a courier slipping through a side door, a parchment tucked in his cloak. Is it another letter, destined to betray the queen? The court's intrigues are a tangled web, and Mary's charm is no match for the knives hidden behind masks. You'd think a queen so radiant could outshine her enemies, but the candlelight betrays her vulnerability. The lute's melody fades, pulling you deeper into the night's secrets, where a single letter could shift the tide of a kingdom. You drift through the shadowed halls of Stirling Castle, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and the faint crackle of hearth fires. It's 1566, and Mary Stuart's world teeters on the edge of chaos. The castle's stone walls, hung with tapestries of thistles and lions, loom like silent sentinels, their shadows hiding a royal trap. You glide toward a private chamber, where candlelight spills across a polished oak table, and the queen's auburn hair gleams as she bends over a parchment. The weight of her crown feels heavier now, and the whispers of betrayal echo like footsteps in the dark. You pause, heart quickening, as a plot takes shape, threatening to ensnare a queen in her own court. The chamber is small but rich, its walls adorned with crimson velvet curtains that sway in the draft. Mary sits alone, her saffron gown pooling around her, a silver quill in hand. Her face, once radiant, is etched with worry, her fingers tracing the rosary at her waist. You'd think a queen would have a moment's peace, but in this castle, every shadow hides a scheme. A quirky noble oddity catches your ear. Mary's court once held a feast of fools, where lords dressed as jesters, but Darnley's drunken antics turned it into a diplomatic disaster. You chuckle softly. Imagine a prince playing fool and embarrassing a kingdom. You slip closer, catching the scent of lavender from Mary's gown, now mingled with the sharp tang of ink. A parchment lies before her, its words half-written, a coded letter to her French allies. The casket letters haunt this moment. Historians still debate their truth. Did Mary plot to secure her throne, or were these missives forged to frame her? The scholarly riddle deepens. Some claim the letters reveal her heart. Others say they're Elizabeth's weapon to crush a rival. You feel the parchment's danger, its ink a thread in a web of deceit. Outside, the wind howls, rattling the leaded windows, as if Stirling itself warns of treachery. You wander to a corridor, where torchlight flickers on stone walls carved with Celtic knots. A historical nugget surfaces. The murder of David Rizzio, Mary's trusted secretary, happened months ago in Holyrood, orchestrated by Darnley and his allies. The bloodstains linger in the court's memory, and Mary's trust in her husband has crumbled. You notice a figure in an indigo cloak, Lord Bothwell, his eyes sharp as he whispers to a guard. Is he her protector, or does he weave his own plot? The court's loyalty frays like the tapestries, and you'd think these nobles would tire of backstabbing. Scheming must be their cardio. You glide into a courtyard, where moonlight bathes the cobblestones, and a fountain's trickle blends with the distant wail of a bagpipe. The air carries the chill of a Scottish night, and you overhear two ladies-in-waiting in teal gowns, their voices low. They speak of Darnley's latest scandal, his nights in Edinburgh's taverns, squandering gold on dice and women. Mary's marriage, meant to unite, has become a noose. You recall the whispers of Rizzio's death. Was it Darnley's jealousy, or a deeper conspiracy to weaken the queen? The bagpipe's notes weave a mournful spell, pulling you deeper into the castle's secrets. You return to Mary's chamber, where she seals her letter with crimson wax, her hands trembling. A knock at the door startles her. A courier in russet velvet, his face half hidden by a hood. He murmurs of French support, but his eyes dart to the shadows. Is he loyal, or does he carry the letter to Elizabeth's spies? The scent of lavender grows cloying, as if masking a darker truth. You'd think a queen so clever could outwit her foes, but the castle's walls seem to close in, each stone whispering of betrayal. The historical record hints at Bothwell's rising influence, his charm a lifeline, or perhaps a trap. The chamber's candles flicker, casting shadows that dance like specters of Mary's past. You notice a small portrait on the wall, Mary as a girl in France, her smile unburdened. Now, her eyes hold a flicker of fear, as if she senses the trap tightening. The letter, sealed and hidden, feels like a stone in a river, ready to shift the current of her fate. You'd think these nobles would pause their plots for a night, but deception is their art form. The bagpipe's wail fades, and the castle grows quiet, its silence heavier than any sound, pulling you deeper into the night's embrace. You glide through the misty halls of Fotheringhay Castle, the air heavy with the scent of wet stone and the faint crackle of a dying fire. It's 1567 now, and Mary Stuart's world has narrowed to these cold walls, her crown a fading memory. The tapestries, once vibrant with thistles and unicorns, hang tattered, their threads fraying like the queen's hopes. You drift toward a small chamber, where candlelight flickers on a writing desk, revealing a ciphered note that could seal a monarch's tragic end. The wind howls outside, rattling the leaded windows, and you sense the noose tightening, woven from betrayal and a single, damning letter. The chamber is sparse, a stark contrast to Holyrood's splendor. Mary sits alone, her saffron gown faded, her auburn hair loosely braided. Her fingers trace a silver rosary, its beads clicking softly, a rhythm to steady her heart. You'd think a queen could escape such a cage, but these walls hold more than stone. They hold her fate. A quirky, noble oddity lingers. Mary once commissioned a velvet cloak embroidered with gold thistles, only to wear it in captivity, a defiant spark of royalty. You chuckle softly. Imagine a queen dazzling her jailers with couture defiance. You slip closer, catching the scent of lavender from her gown, now faint, mingled with the musty tang of old parchment. On the desk lies a letter, its ink fresh, written in code to her Catholic allies. The casket letters cast a long shadow here. Historians still argue over their truth. Did Mary pen this note to plot her escape, or is it another forgery to trap her? The scholarly riddle persists. Were these letters her desperate cry for freedom, or Elizabeth's tool to justify her doom? You feel the parchment's weight, its ciphered words a fragile thread in a web of deceit. You wander to a narrow window, where moonlight spills over the Northamptonshire hills. The castle, a grim fortress, feels like a tomb, its silence broken only by the distant clank of a guard's armor. A historical nugget surfaces. Mary's abdication in 1567, forced by Scottish lords, left her son James VI as king, but her imprisonment in England began a new chapter of intrigue. You notice a figure in the shadows, a courier in russet cloak, slipping a sealed letter to a guard. Is it Mary's plea to France, or a plant by Elizabeth's spies? You'd think these nobles would tire of their endless schemes, but plotting is practically their religion. You glide back to the chamber, where Mary seals her letter with crimson wax, her hands steady, but her eyes haunted. A knock echoes, and a lady-in-waiting in teal enters, her face pale. She whispers of news from London. Elizabeth's court buzzes with rumors of Mary's treachery. The air grows colder, the lavender scent fading, as if the castle itself mourns. You recall Bothwell, now exiled, his role in Darnley's murder in 1567, a mysterious explosion that killed Mary's husband and tainted her name. Was it Bothwell's plot, or a trap to frame her? The historical record is murky, like the mist outside, and you sense the letter's danger growing. The chamber's candles gutter, casting shadows that dance like specters of Mary's past. You notice a small prayer book on the desk, its pages worn, a relic from her French youth. The queen kneels, whispering prayers, but her eyes dart to the door, as if expecting betrayal. You'd think a woman so devout could find peace, but in this court, faith is no shield. A guard lingers outside, his dirk glinting, and you wonder, is he her protector or Elizabeth's pawn? The letter, hidden in her sleeve, feels like a heartbeat, pulsing with secrets that could free or doom her. You slip into the corridor, where torchlight flickers on stone walls carved with faded roses. The castle hums with whispers. Servants speak of a trial, of letters found in a silver casket, damning Mary as a traitor. The casket letters are the key, their words twisted to paint her as a murderer. You'd think the truth would shine through, but in this Game of Thrones, truth is a rare guest. The wind's howl grows louder, blending with the faint wail of a bagpipe, its notes a mournful lullaby. The castle's shadows deepen, pulling you toward the climax of Mary's tragedy, where a single note could shatter a queen's last hope. You drift through the icy gloom of Fotheringhay Castle, the air thick with the scent of mildew and the faint clink of chains. It's February 1587, and Mary Stuart, once Queen of Scots, faces her final hours in a cold stone cell. The walls, bare save for a tattered tapestry of a fading thistle, seem to close in, their shadows swallowing the last glimmers of her crown. You glide toward a small chamber, where a single candle flickers, casting a frail light on Mary's auburn hair as she kneels in prayer. The weight of a letter, her undoing, hangs like a specter, and treachery's grip tightens in the darkened tower. You pause, heart heavy, as the queen's fate unfolds in a silence broken only by the wind's mournful wail. The chamber is stark, its stone floor cold beneath a threadbare rug. Mary kneels before a wooden crucifix, her saffron gown now a simple black velvet, her rosary beads clicking softly. Her face, etched with resolve, holds a quiet dignity, though her eyes betray a flicker of sorrow. You'd think a queen could defy her fate, but this cell is a cage no charm can break. A quirky, noble oddity lingers. Mary once gifted her ladies-in-waiting silver thimbles engraved with hearts, a final act of grace before her end. You chuckle softly. Imagine a queen sowing hope into her last days. You slip closer, catching the faint scent of lavender clinging to her gown, now overwhelmed by the damp chill of the cell. On a rough table lies a prayer book, its pages worn, and a sealed letter. Her final words to her son, James VI, or perhaps a plea to France. The casket letters have sealed her doom, their ciphered words twisted by Elizabeth's court to prove treason. The scholarly riddle remains. Were those letters Mary's desperate bid for power, or a forgery to justify her execution? You feel the weight of that final letter, its wax seal a tombstone for a queen's dreams. The candle's flame wavers, as if mourning her fate. You wander to a narrow slit of a window, where a gray dawn creeps over the Northamptonshire hills. The castle is a fortress of despair, its silence broken by the clank of a guard's boots. A historical nugget surfaces. Mary's trial in 1586, based on the Babington plot, condemned her for plotting Elizabeth's assassination. The casket letters, presented as evidence, damned her further, though their authenticity is still debated. You notice a guard in russet armor, his dirk glinting, stationed outside. Is he a jailer, or does he carry a final message? You'd think these nobles would tire of their deadly games, but betrayal is their legacy. You glide back to the chamber, where Mary rises, her black velvet gown pooling like a shadow. A knock echoes, and a priest in teal robes enters, offering last rites. Her composure is regal, but her hands tremble as she clutches the crucifix. The air grows heavier, the lavender scent gone, replaced by the musty tang of stone. You recall the Babington plot, a Catholic scheme to free Mary, betrayed by a double agent. Was it her doing, or was she framed to silence a rival queen? The historical record is murky, like the dawn outside, and you sense the letter's shadow consuming her. The chamber's candle gutters, casting shadows that dance like specters of Mary's past, her youth in France, her reign in Scotland, her love for Darnley, now dust. You notice a small locket on the table, engraved with a thistle, perhaps a relic of her mother. The queen whispers a prayer, her voice steady, but the guard's footsteps grow louder, signaling the end. You'd think a woman so radiant could outshine her fate, but the tower's walls are merciless. The historical nugget of her execution looms. On February 8, 1587, Mary faced the block, her courage immortalized in chronicles. The letter, whether hers or a lie, has written her final chapter. You slip into the corridor, where torchlight flickers on stone walls, their carvings worn by time. The castle hums with a grim quiet, broken only by the distant toll of a bell. The casket letters linger in memory, their truth lost in the shadows of history. You'd think justice would prevail, but in this court, truth is a fleeting guest. The wind's wail softens, blending with the faint hum of a spinning fan, pulling you from the tower's gloom. Mary's final breath approaches, a whisper of defiance in a world of treachery, and you feel the night's embrace drawing you away. The tower fades now, its cold stones dissolving into a gentle mist, and you float above the rolling hills of Scotland, where heather sways under a starlit sky. The weight of Mary's tragedy slips away, her letters and betrayals melting into the night's quiet hum. You hear the soft ripple of a lock, its waters soothing, like a fan's gentle whir in a darkened room. The stars above twinkle, their light a balm, and the scent of lavender lingers faintly, carrying you to a peaceful void. Let the plots and crowns dissolve, let the shadows rest. Your breath slows, your heart steadies, and the night whispers a blessing. Sleep now, untroubled by the past. The world is still, the stars are kind, and slumber waits to cradle you in its tender embrace.